There's an old saying, and it goes like this: you cannot nail custard to the wall. A lot of times when people meet me for the first time and they find out that I'm a witch, they naturally assume that, well, if he's a witch, he's Wiccan. And that's not necessarily the truth. It might have been the truth years ago, but it's not the truth now. And the reason why is because I have, some of my beliefs are similar to a lot of Wiccan beliefs, but then there's some of my beliefs that are a lot different than what Wiccans practice. So that's why I use the term witch as opposed to Wiccan. So what I want to do here in this video is basically just to go over some of the differences that I have. My beliefs within the craft go further back than 1950 when Joe Gardner was writing books about the craft. And for the record, Joe Gardner never called himself a Wiccan. That's something that happened within our community later on by other people. Joe Gardner and the people who were around him, they considered themselves as being witches. Okay, now some of the things that witches believe, I have a little list here that I'm going to go over. One of the basic things is the threefold law, and that's basically the law of return. Whatever you do is going to come back on you 3 times, and this is really tied into the Rick and Reed, which states, harm none, but do what thy wilt. Now, the way I look at it is like this: a reed is advice, and it's good advice. It basically, you just don't go around harming people, and you don't go around, just doing things to people that would cause harm to them. But that doesn't mean you can't defend yourself if you've been wrong. If you've been wrong, then you have every right to defend yourself. And I'm not just talking about doing a binding spell or anything like that. If someone does you wrong, you have every right to defend yourself, and actually not defending yourself goes against nature. So the whole idea that witches don't curse or witches don't do hexes is that's witchcraft 101 as far as I'm concerned. That's never truly been the case, and anyone who tells you that they basically have not done their homework. One of the things I remember hearing about when I was younger is if you lived in a village, and if there was a rapist in town. I believe that Z Budapest has told the story a lot of times, that if you lived in a certain village and you found out that there was a rapist or a child abuser, and that the police was trying to catch this person or this and that and other, the witches would band together and they would curse this person, and they would put a hex on this person. And witches have always done this. And this whole idea of whitewashing this is just, it's silly. It's anyone who tells you anything different, is basically either they're lying or they don't know the truth about the craft that they're practicing. Okay, next is witches practice ceremonial magic, or actually Wiccans practice ceremonial magic, and that is something that I do also. I've always been a I don't want to say a fan, or let me see, what's a better word for it, someone who's admired Aleister Crowley. You cannot study magic without coming across the name Aleister Crowley. I've always had a certain amount of respect for the man as a magician. Not necessarily as a person, because the man did do some pretty hideous things in his lifetime. But I don't judge him on that. I judge him as how great of a magician he was, and what he accomplished throughout his life. So I've always looked highly on Aleister Crowley on that level. Now his people skills, and that's a different story. But as far as magic is concerned, I've always respected Aleister Crowley on that level. But ceremonial magic, high magic that he practiced, that's not only the only magic that I do. I also practice hoodoo, and I do a lot of eclectic work within the craft that I do. So that would be the only, but Wiccans do that too. So in that way, I can say that that's pretty much identical to the way I practice, and that's never changed in my life. Another thing that a lot of Wiccans do, not all Wiccans, but to me, there's always been covens, or there was always a sense of community within the Wiccan community, and that's something that I personally like. Um, because I'm in a coven myself, and I do consider myself as being a part of the Wiccan community. However, the line of witches that I tend to believe that I come from is a little bit different than that. And so let me explain. Those of you who've read the Bible remember the story about the witch of Endor, about her, about the Christians basically kicking all of the fortune tellers and all the necromancers out of the village. But when the times got hard and they really needed some information, and I think this can be proved historically. Whenever people got hard up for something, they always went to the little lady who lived on the hill, or the guy who did the what was called magic without a license, I guess. There are certain people, especially back in the Middle Ages, that the church sort of tolerated people who worked in the courts, or people who were consultants to the king or the queen or whatnot, and did their little magic. These people were considered people who practiced magic with a license. They were licensed, not necessarily fully by the church, but they was kind of tolerated in that respect. But then again, there's always been people like me, people who were more eclectic in nature, were people who got results regardless. And that's where I believe my lineage comes from. People who don't necessarily live within society, people who live apart from society, but when times get hard, they always kind of seek you out, and that is definitely how things have worked in my practice of the craft. I can't tell you how many Christians who basically come to me, and they want to know information about this or that and the other, or they want to know a spell about this. How can I how can I do a spell to attract this in my life, or how can I do a spell for this, that, and other. And I'm happy to oblige them, but it's just it kind of boggles my mind why they couldn't get this from their own religion or their own church. Hence, I tend to be a bit of a witch of Endor when it comes to that, because when they want to talk to their dead relatives, or they want to know if spirits are real, then it's people like me that they come to. So I would say that that's sort of a difference between the way I practice the craft and the way that a lot of Wiccans practice the craft. I still tend to be part of the magical community out there, but there's a part of my personality and a part of who I am who likes to be by himself and likes to sort of live on the fringes of society, I guess. Okay, I have more to say, and I think what I'll do is save that for another video, since I am running out of time here. So hopefully that cleared up some misconceptions that people have about me. Until next time, love is the law, and peace.